Good day, everyone. Scooter here at Granville Guitars, coming to you live from the Granville Guitars World Headquarters here in lovely St. Petersburg, Florida. Hope you're having a nice day. Got a little project here that I'm going to follow along with. It's going to be several parts to this video. Probably going to stick them all together so you can watch them all at once. Recently, I came across a very good deal, I thought, and that deal was this. I was able to pick up 2 of these Jet City 20 amplifiers, as you can see. If you don't know about these, they're awesome. They're designed by Mike Soldano. They're very Marshall-y in the way they behave. High gain Marshall, say JCM800-ish. This particular amplifier is, of course, 20 watts, 2 EL84s. Gain, bass, mid, treble, volume, presence. These 2 amplifiers are identical in every respect, except for, you'll notice the one on the left has old school power switches, power and standby, and a separate pilot light. The one on the right here has rocker switches and a lighted power switch. Other than that, these 2 guys are pretty much identical. Same board, same generation of board, all the same components, transformers, etc. For the purposes of our little demonstration here, they're twins. Had them both turned on, cranked up, had a bunch of fun playing through them stock, and I got to wondering, this is a rare opportunity for somebody who does what I do, which is to repair tube amplifiers. I'm constantly wanting to learn more about what I do. And I got to thinking, well, you know what? I really want to see for myself and hear and taste and smell the difference that good transformers can make. So, got together with our good friends over at Mercury Magnetics, and Patrick was good enough to, well, of course I paid for them, but our good friend Patrick over at Mercury, who we do a lot of business with and is very generous with his time and knowledge when I call with questions, etc., purchased a set of transformers for the Jet City 20. On the left here, we'll see the Mercury power transformer. In the middle is a choke, which the amp does not currently have, but I'm going to add one to help the power supply out a little bit, give a little more clean headroom. Just help it perform a little bit better in the back end. And finally here on the right is the output transformer. Now you'll notice this is an oversized output transformer. It's actually physically larger than the power transformer. Gonna have to drill some holes in the chassis to suit that thing. But I'm kind of excited to see if there's an actual difference here, and I'll be able to switch back and forth pretty close to real time between the 2 amplifiers, one with Mercury's and one without. I'm not going to do any other mods. I had actually spent some time looking at the schematic for the amplifier. It's pretty straightforward, and there's a bunch of mod ideas out there, some of which I'm interested in, others of which don't really hold much interest for me. And I'm really wanting to see that what the effect high-quality transformers have on an otherwise stock amplifier. So this is going to be a fun little experiment, and hopefully you stay tuned. I'm not going to show a whole bunch of innards and how-to and all that sort of jazz. You can find that kind of thing plenty of places on the internet. I'm just going to install the new transformers and do a little A/B test, and you and I together will discover if there really is a difference here. I have a really strong suspicion. My instincts are that there will be a vast improvement in tone, as has been my experience over the years with Mercury products and better transformers in general. When you put better iron into a tube amplifier, it just can't help but perform better. It can't help but sound better. It handles the blunt force trauma aspects of its jobs much better. It's just a better tool. It's a more perfectly sized tire for the task, if you will. So I kind of suspect it's going to be an improvement. How much of an improvement? You and I, we're going to find out together. So stay tuned. All right, here we go. The chassis is out. This is the amp with the metal switches and the separate pilot light. And I just wanted you to see real quick the exact size difference. It's pretty striking, honestly. I'm gonna grab the camera off the tripod here. It's gonna get shaky, but I got to get in here and show you this. Of course, the bottom one is the stock tranny as it comes in the amp. This is the output side here, and the one on top is the Mercury. And you can see that it's considerably larger. I'd say probably 1/4 inch in terms of the actual iron, the leaves, as it were. Is what those are called, the laminations. There's about 1/4 inch more, and that's a lot more iron. That means cooler running. That means better power handling. It means better tone. It just means plain better. So the old one is there, and the new one is right there. And again, you can see them side by side how much larger that one is. Same situation over here with the power transformer. Even though this power transformer actually sits in the same footprint, the holes line up just fine, and it's going to go right into the old holes. The output transformer, I'm going to have to drill new holes to suit the footprint of the new output transformer, but that's okay. It's just a few holes in the chassis. So, yeah. They're very much larger than the stock ones. Are the stock ones bad? No, they're decent little transformers, particularly for, the amount of money that this amp typically costs. But I got into them pretty cheap, and thought this would be a fun little experiment, so that's why we're here. Anyway, there's your size comparison on the transformers. Let's dive into mounting these things, shall we? All right, kids, here we are the next day. Work continues in amongst all the other various projects. And as you can see, what started out to be a simple kind of transformer upgrade, as many things in life, has turned into a pretty complicated process. If you're considering doing this yourself, and I highly recommend that if you don't do this stuff for a living, don't do it yourself. But if you do it yourself, plan on some shucking and jiving along the way. I opted for, as I said yesterday, the oversized output transformer, which just barely fits. But you do have to drill for new holes, and to get it out, the printed circuit board had to be removed because 2 of the screws were not accessible. These upper 2 up here were not accessible otherwise. So the board had to come out. And when I drilled for the new locations you can see them down there, the new locations for the lower 2 screw holes, they ended up directly underneath the speaker jacks. And the speaker jacks had to be removed in order to get to all that stuff. So plan on gutting it. Pretty much everything at one point has to come out of the amp. When you're mounting the power transformer, the switches have to come out, and the pilot light in this case, with this version of the amp. And I'm assuming the other version probably as well, the one that has the lighted power switch. You have to do some shucking and jiving there as well. I've mounted the choke, and you can see the screws for the choke mount, this is power transformer here, and right over here, and the upper two are up there. The choke I mounted right here. There's that one and that one. Let me flip this guy over and we'll show you. Oops, sorry, bad camera work. That's what happens when you do it all yourself. There's where the choke ended up mounted. I could have mounted it more over in this area, but that would have necessitated a third hole to run the wires for it. So I opted for this right here, like this. Something very unorthodox about this amp I want to point out just now. Doesn't seem to bother it. It runs fine. I mean, I've plugged into these, plenty of them. The orientation of the two transformers is the same. Typically, you will see power and output transformers rotated 90 degrees from one another. It's actually, that's not 90 degrees, is it, friends? It's 45 degrees. Yes. Typically, you'll see this rotated that way, with the bells facing that way. However many degrees it is, typically you don't see them mounted this way. That's the way the original transformers were, so that's what I'm sticking with right now. But that's a question I'm going to have to pursue, because you never see that. Every Fender, every Marshall, most amps that I've ever worked on, they're in opposition to one another. So that's a head scratcher. I'm not sure why that was done, or if it's something I need to correct. If I do need to correct it, I have room to do it. But anyway, the purpose of this little segment is just to forewarn all of you. This is not a beginner's project, dropping transformers into this thing. I'm not doing any other mods to this amp. There are other mods out there which are reasonably easy to do. This is not for someone with no experience working on a high voltage amplifier. It really isn't. It's really better left up to a pro. That's not just because I'm a professional, it's because I care. One other thing too, that I think I may correct. If you look at the board here, and there's been complaints about this from other folks on the web as well, you can see that a lot of the connections right here, these two purple wires are for your filament. Oh no, they're not. Those are for the bias supply. Sorry, filament wires are up here. That's where the power indicator light in this amp would connect. The purple wires are for bias. At any rate, you can see that the actual solder connections are on the underside, and you can see that they're very, very poorly connected. Now, I'm sure that's for ease of construction, but you got to blob a whole bunch of solder in there to get that to do that right. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to solder these from the underside the way they should be and get all of that solder out of there. And there's a couple places on the board where they've done that. The connection for the feedback here, all of the connections, and I've clipped them for the output to the tubes, the output primaries. There's the solder connection right there. That's not good. There's this huge blob on the top that's supposed to represent a connection. Not going to do it. I'm going to do that properly. Everywhere I see a blob, here's the feedback right there. The yellow wire was connected from the 16 ohm tap, the output jack, and you can see it right here. There's a big, huge blob of solder on top, and on the underside, that's where the connection is supposed to be, because that's your solder trace there that leads it to the rest of the amp. So, yeah, not real happy about that, so I'm not going to do it that way. It's harder to do it right, but it's going to end up being more solid in the long run. So, we're in a transitional period right now. I'm going to have to set this aside and work on some other stuff this morning. But the transformers are in, and wires ready to be run. And that's it for this segment. Stand by. Okay, here we are. Wiring is complete. It was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but to quote my old friend Duff, it's got to suit me. So I probably went to a little more trouble than I absolutely had to, but it's got to suit me. Let's just leave it at that. You can see the formerly blobby connections. Right here we're looking at the power, or rather output transformer connections. There's the blue and the brown for each side, and then the B plus goes over there. And we've kind of eliminated some of those blobby solder messes that were there. The connection's actually on the underside of the board, so it doesn't really need all that blobby solder. Is it necessary? No, it's really not. Does it interfere with the proper function of the amplifier? Probably not, but why not fix it? I tried to do as good as I can. There, unfortunately, those two white wires, that's where the filament supply connects. So that's how they do that. Not a fan of that at all. Actually thought about connecting some wires there. Actually, what I did think about doing is not connecting it there at all. Over here, those two green wires, those are going off to the pilot light. And I may still do this in the future. I thought about disconnecting those completely, those two white wires, because those are just solder traces that they're soldered to the top of, and running wires from that point where the green wires are off to an outboard tag strip and connecting everything that way. Who knows whether it make a real difference or not. Now, right there where that 1K 2-watt was, you can see where the choke is now installed. That's where you install it. Let's see, what other things did I do while I was in here? The negative feedback wire way up top there. And I kind of redid a little of the wiring for the output jacks. There was some sloppy stuff going on there, and was not all that pleased with that. Again, I didn't even, probably if I was getting real picky, I would replace all those jacks and just redo everything. But decided for now, in the interest of speed, to just get on with it, so to speak. So anyway, I used, you can probably notice here, I used a white heat shrink tubing, and that was mainly for future reference for myself to remind me of what wires I had actually messed with or changed out or done. Just kind of, hey, I did this, and, the stuff that doesn't have that shrink tubing is stuff I didn't do. So, and you look over here, this is something I did not like. They have this switch, and that's for switching between 120 and 230 is what it's labeled. I think what they meant was probably 240. And you can see the blue wire that's tied off and not used. That's the same for the stock power transformer as the Mercury. There's a blue wire that's tied off and not used. And you want to make very certain that it's tied off securely. I've actually double shrink wrapped that and knotted it and stuck it out of the way. Usually, I didn't want to drill any more holes today, or I probably would have, like I said, mounted a tag strip and just mounted it to that, cut it to length, and soldered it to an empty tag on a tag strip, so the wire's just sitting there not doing anything. Marshall's done that for years with their boards. You'll see a lot of non-used wires at the end of the board that are soldered to nothing, but they're just there to keep them out of the way. This switch that they use, I just think it's really flimsy, and it's not in keeping with the rest of the amp, because they've used pretty good components everywhere else, including the transformers that we replaced. They're not bad. Here they are. Where are they? Hang on, I gotta back out. There they are, sitting off to the side, all forlorn, because they're not in the amp anymore. But anyway, this little switch is just quite flimsy, and I didn't think it was up to the task. So I just clipped all the wires off and hardwired it for a 120. If somebody in future switches that, there's just nothing going to happen one way or the other. I don't plan on getting rid of this amp, but if I do, I may find a proper switch to do that with, something with a little more heft. Because you're dealing with high voltage there, and you want something that's... The contacts on that thing are hideously flimsy, I think. So, yeah, I just bypassed that altogether. Hardwired, you can see where I've hardwired the wires from the power transformer directly to the switch where they were. Replaced the wire for the pilot light, mainly because by the time I got all my work done, the old one was a little short, so I just went in and replaced it. Let's see, that's pretty much it. I've done no mods to this amp other than the transformers and the addition of the choke. That's it. I did replace the power tubes when it came in. It had a bad pair of power tubes, and not just weak. Bad, plain bad, and not passing enough signal at all. Really bad shorts in them, so I just pitched those and put a new pair of JJs in. And now they're pretty good. So all that remains here is for us to hear this thing, and I'm going to compare it to the stock Jet City 20 that I have that has not been messed with in any way. Original transformers, no mods. And just see if we can hear a difference or feel a difference, taste a difference. Who knows? Maybe it'll be down to the smell. I don't know. Anyway, that's about it for the innards of the amplifier. Let's have a listen. Good morning. Here we are. We're doing the sound test of these Mercury transformers in this Jet City 20. I've got a rare opportunity here, I think, at least to prove to myself that the Mercurys are better than the stock transformers. I purchased these two amps together and got a real smoking good deal on them. And yeah, we put Mercury transformers in one and added the Mercury choke. The one on the bottom is the one that's been modified. The stock boy is the one that's on top, and that's what I'm plugged into currently. We're going to start with that, so we have the baseline comparator right there. Guitar today is the Granville Blue Betty. It's a little parts guitar that I put together for myself from several other guitars, honestly. Mexican strap body, Kaler trem, DiMarzio Steve Morse model pickups with series parallel switches, master volume, master tone, afterburner, EMG afterburner gain booster, 3-way switch. Maple neck, rosewood board, jumbo frets, bone nut, Cluson tuners, and that's my trick. Today we're plugged into my Randall 212 with Celestion 60 watters. I find that these heads sound best through a closed back 212. Tried them through 412s and single 12s and a couple of open back cabs, and this is what it seemed like it sounded best to me. Controls are gain is at 3, and I've done this on both amps. Let's see here. Now I got to lean over and look at it. Gain is at 3. Bass is a little under 2. Middle is about 4.5. Treble is about 4. Volume is pegged 9. And presence at 5 on each amplifier. I've tried to match them up with tone controls and volume controls to be pretty equal. We're mic'd up with a Shure SM57 going directly into the camera. So here is the stock boy. Okay, there's some big power chords. Let's switch over. All right, here's the one with the Mercuries in. real similar tonality. To my ear, the original Transformers are a little more smeary. They're a little less defined. The modified amplifier has a little more authority. It just feels like there's more punch and power behind it, ready to come to your command when you're ready for it. With the volume pegged like that, you can get a pretty decent, clean sound just by rolling off the volume controller. In parallel and in the middle position. Now we're going back to series and we're going to turn it up. All right, let's go back to the non-modded one. I don't know whether I'm hoping you can hear what I'm talking about. When you lay into those chords on the non-modded ones, some of the notes are kind of smearing together. They don't have clear definition. I'm going to attribute that to the inability of the original power transformers to put up with what I'm hitting it with. I've got it cranked all the way. I mean, the master's up all the way. Turns it into a non-master volume at that point, really. But is it a bad sounding amp? No, it's a terrific sounding little amp with the stock Transformers. I just think that it's a lot more fun. It has a lot more authority and punch, and the sound stage is richer. It's just more fun to play. There again, this is the stock amp we're plugged into. Okay, let's go back to the Mercury. It might be a feel thing. You might not be able to hear it. I can hear it, but I'm playing it, so it's always a different interface between hands and ear if you're standing in the room. I'm hopeful that you're getting what I'm hearing in here, and that is that the Mercury transformers are just they're adding that layer, that extra layer of touch sensitivity and just wonderfulness. It's more fun. It's just more fun. Is it worth the cost? That's going to be for you to decide. Personally, I think it is worth the extra, and I'm giving serious thought to putting Mercury's in the other one now that I've done this little shootout here. So I don't know. I'm very happy with both of them, but the Mercury makes me happier. It just does. It's got a cleaner sound stage to it. It's got better definition. It's more responsive. It's the difference between a Chevy and a Porsche. They're both going to get you there. But one's going to be probably just a little bit more fun getting there. And it's going to be up to you to decide if the cost difference is worth it. Are the stock transformers bad? No, they're not. They're perfectly normal transformers. Actually, they're better than a lot that I've seen. The Mercuries are better. I'm having a great time with it, and if you think this is for you, you should seek it out. Go contact our friends over at Mercury Magnetics. Patrick Selfridge over there, awesome guy, very generous with his time and knowledge, and happy to answer any questions very quickly. Anytime I have any questions, Patrick is the guy for me where transformers are concerned, and he's very helpful. And they make a fine product. So in conclusion here, am I happy with it? Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty pleased. Let me get my angle up here so you can actually see my face. I'm pretty pleased. I think it's a solid investment, and not just because they sound better. The fact that the transformers run much cooler. That's going to add to the lifespan of the amplifier. It's going to help you out with the lifespan of your tubes. EL84s tend to run hot, and if your power transformer is not adding to that problem by running hot itself, yeah, you're gonna get more money out of your tubes, which tubes are getting expensive. So yeah, I'm really pleased. I'm very pleased, as a matter of fact. Let's send you out with a little more here. Well, that's all I know for today. If you have any questions about anything we do here at Granville Guitars, seek us out on the web, www.granvilleguitars.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And go check us out, the blog over at WordPress, A View from the Granville Bench. Tons more content over there, all kinds of fun stuff. That's all I know for today. Mercury Magnetics. Seek them out, use them, know them, live Mercury Magnetics. Promise you, you will not be sorry. Have a rockin' day.